Toronto police bust an alleged taxi scam criminal network leading to several arrests and the seizure of hundreds of thousands of dollars in property. Good afternoon. We're learning today about the results of Project FAIR. More details, a major investigation into a taxi scam that targeted hundreds of unsuspecting victims.
Police also urge potential victims to come forward as they say they're concerned more people could be impacted. CTV's Mike Walker is live at police headquarters this afternoon with all the details. Mike.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, this investigation to Project FAIR was launched last July, and police say so far through this taxi scam, more than 300 people have been defrauded out of more than $500,000. Now, this morning, police showed off some of the luxury items they seized, including clothing, jewelry, art, and electronics that they say the suspects purchased with stolen credit and debit cards. As part of the scheme, investigators say the suspects would pose as a legitimate taxi driver, using vehicles that were modified to look like taxis and would swap the victims' credit or debit cards. Investigators say often the victims were unaware until after the purchase or withdrawal was made. Police have arrested 11 suspects who are facing a total of 108 charges. Here's more from investigators.
Unsuspecting victims were picked up and asked to pay for the ride using a credit or debit card. During the transaction, the suspects discreetly swapped the victim's card with a card that looked like theirs. The real card and their PIN is then passed on to accomplices.
We had 3 occurrences where there were over $60,000 taken from the victims. So once the card was obtained, they went and charged it up over to about $60,000 in a very short period of time. We were making ATM withdrawals, and then they would go and make purchases of gift cards or items such as computers, electronics.
Now, police say all the victims have been made whole by their financial institutions. They believe that there are still several victims out there who are yet to come forward, and police say they are looking for 2 more suspects connected to this taxi scam. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Mike. A police investigation is underway in Kensington Market. Police say they received reports of a person with a gun around 4 a.m. The suspect then fled the scene and collided with the police cruiser. No injuries have been reported, and the investigation is ongoing along Augusta Avenue.
Still ahead on CTV News at noon, Premier Doug Ford is meeting with First Nations leaders today while facing backlash over recent comments. The details are coming up a little later in the newscast.
A remarkable ending to a massive 4-day search for a missing Montreal girl after she was found safe and alive. The 3-year-old was found in eastern Ontario yesterday afternoon, spotted by a police drone. CTV's Scott Hirsch joins us now with the details. Scott, this is such a strange story. Take us through how she was found.
Nathan, you mentioned the words safe and alive, 2 words so many people had been waiting desperately to hear, and that is what they found out yesterday. Quebec police ultimately saying they had more than 200 people helping them with this search, and that included ground crews on the ground as well as people operating helicopters and drones. And they say they had more than 7 million visits to their website, ultimately applauding the public and the media for helping push as much information out there as soon as possible, meaning besides the people directly involved in the search, there were eyes and ears both near and far on this case. Now, police say this is just the best possible outcome, that she was found safe and alive after 4 days of searching. Investigators say they got a major clue on Wednesday, allowing them to focus on the area where she was located, roughly 50 kilometers from the Quebec border, spotted by a drone operated by Ontario police along an on-ramp for Highway 417. She was conscious and able to speak to officers. She was given food and water right away and taken to hospital for further checks. Now, news of her discovery came as a huge relief to so many people across the country following this case closely, and in particular, including neighbors in the area where the child lived. Here's how they reacted to the news that she was found safe and alive.
I think it's amazing that the little girl is back. Actually, I think everyone in the condo was really afraid and scared for her. So it's really a relief that she's safe and sound.
As a grandfather, I'm very happy. I am a grandfather of a little baby of 14 months. So I would be very shy to lose my little daughter. And so I'm really happy. It's very strange. So it's a strange story, you know. The kid was living around here, and they found the kid in Ontario.
And Nathan, ultimately, police say no Amber Alert was issued because the circumstances surrounding the overall incident did not meet all of the necessary requirements.
You know, we know the mother was charged with abandonment. What else do we know about all this?
Nathan, ultimately, there are still lots of unanswered questions as the investigation will continue to reveal more of those unanswered questions. But ultimately, what we know, the young girl was reported missing under unclear circumstances. Her mother allegedly entered a store west of Montreal on Sunday and said she could not find her child. The mother, 34-year-old Rachel Todd, was arrested Monday evening and has since been charged with unlawful abandonment of a child. She remains in custody. Her case was adjourned until Friday to set a date for a bail hearing, Nathan.
All right, CTV's Scott Hurst in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Lots more news in a moment, but first we take a live look at the city this afternoon. Not much in the way of sunshine, plenty of cloud cover, keeping it looking gray on this Thursday, and also plenty of humidity. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. I can feel it in my hair, Lindsay.
It is still very humid, Michelle. And as far as the temperature is concerned, we are getting a little bit of relief from the heat, but not much. It still pales in comparison to what we're expecting into this weekend. Here's a look at the current satellite and radar. We are seeing showers anywhere from Kitchener-Waterloo through Orangeville and over toward Barrie. Heavier rain continues to fall north of the GTA in parts of Cottage Country. That's where we continue to see rainfall warnings at this time. Opportunity for a quick passing shower for us this afternoon in the GTA. Look at the temperature difference, 14 degrees in Goderich compared to 23 in Toronto, 24 in Niagara Falls. Yes, it is still muggy. You'll find it a little bit cooler near the lake as well. Also want to point out that the winds today are quite strong. They are coming out of the southwest, gusting close at this hour to 60 kilometers per hour. We have pretty much already reached our forecast daytime high for today, but things are just beginning when it comes to the heat. We'll talk about the heat wave potential starting Sunday coming up. For now, Nathan, back to you.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. Turning to Queen's Park, Premier Doug Ford is set to meet with First Nations leaders today to discuss concerns about Bill 5.
It comes as Ford faces backlash from Indigenous groups over comments he made that NDP Deputy Leader Selma Makwa called deeply offensive and racist. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has more ahead of the meeting. Siobhan.
Well, those comments from the Premier definitely add a layer of tension to this meeting that's upcoming with 40 First Nations chiefs. I spoke with one of them on her way into Queen's Park this morning. She called the comments appalling, and she says they will be addressed during today's sit-down. This meeting is all focused on Bill 5. It comes after weeks of public pushback from Indigenous groups, some of them. This is a bill that creates special economic zones where the government can choose to exempt itself from some laws, all in the name of getting projects done and economic prosperity. The Premier has said that in this meeting today, he really wants to emphasize the way that Ontario wants to collaborate with First Nations on economic prosperity. Here's what he had to say yesterday.
You can't just keep coming hat in hand all the time to the government. You got to be able to take care of yourselves. And when you literally have gold mines, nickel mines, every type of critical mineral that the world wants, and you're saying, no, I don't want to touch that. By the way, give me money. Not going to happen.
That type of language shows his ignorance for the history of Anishinaabe and First Peoples here, and it doesn't reflect well for moving towards a path of, economic growth for all of Ontario and respect for First Nations people.
The meeting starts in earnest at 1 o'clock. When it's done, we are expecting to hear from the Premier and his Minister of Indigenous Affairs about what they heard behind closed doors. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
All right, thank you, Siobhan. The Toronto District School Board has approved its 2-year budget plan with a focus on balancing the books. The board voted to approve a balanced budget for the 2025-2026 and 2026-2027 school years. The new budget includes an additional $2 million for special education, as well as $1 million for music education. It maintains board ownership of pools for the first year, but could see them cut along with music instructors in the second year. The board had been under pressure to balance the books, with the province threatening to take over the board if they could not come up with a balanced budget. Ontario's Education Ministry has already announced a financial investigation into the board. The Office of Education Minister Paul Calandra released a statement which reads, "This year we provided the Toronto District School Board with a record increase in education funding and have given multiple opportunities for the board to address its financial situation. The province is asking the board to find savings of less than 2%, and instead of looking for administrative savings, they have threatened to cut services for students. The TDSB's historic mismanagement required our government to take immediate action, which is why we have announced a financial investigation to ensure board resources are going to support students. We will closely monitor the results of these measures and are prepared to take additional action to ensure the TDSB is focused on delivering the high-quality education our students deserve." As a major downtown intersection remains closed for construction, one city councillor says he has a common-sense solution to ease gridlock.
Today, Councillor Brad Bradford laid out his plan that would see a portion of King Street reopened to vehicle traffic. CTV's City Hall reporter Natalie Johnson is live with those details. Natalie.
Hi, Michelle. That's right. This is a proposal from Councillor Brad Bradford to combat downtown congestion by opening up a stretch of King Street to vehicular traffic between Spadina and Church, while the intersection of King and Church remains closed. This intersection is fully closed right now due to water main and streetcar track work and will remain sealed off for the better part of the summer. During this period, streetcars have been diverted off of King and onto Richmond and Adelaide, which are now bearing the load of transit, in addition to Ontario line construction, bike lanes and heavy vehicular traffic as well. So the argument from Councillor Bradford is to make use of King Street, a transit priority corridor that is effectively not being used for transit right now, to provide additional capacity for personal vehicles during this time and relieve the pressure on those parallel east-west routes. Here's more from the councillor here this morning.
We need immediate, practical action to keep traffic flowing, avoid damage to our economy, and just make the city work. This is not about pitting drivers against transit users, because both of them are currently stuck in the gridlock on Richmond and Adelaide. This is about using common sense and looking for creative solutions to our problems. We should be making better use of all the corridors that are available at our disposal when we can, particularly one that is significantly underutilized right now, as you can see here on the site.
And so this is a proposal that will be debated at City Council next week. This idea comes as speculation swirls as to who will be running for mayor in next year's election. Councillor Bradford was asked this morning at this very campaign-style news conference whether he was considering that, saying only that he's having ongoing discussions about city leadership every single day, and he's focused on making the city work right now in his capacity as councillor. Reporting live, I'm Natalie Johnson. Back to you, Nathan and Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Natalie. Israel is threatening Iran's supreme leader after missiles damaged an Israeli hospital and struck residential buildings. The hospital said the main impact was an old surgery building that had been evacuated in recent days. But more than 70 people suffered minor injuries in the southern city of Beersheba. Tehran claims it hit an Israeli command and intelligence center near the hospital. Residential buildings near Tel Aviv were also struck, injuring at least 240 people. Iran has fired hundreds of missiles and drones at Israel, but most have been shot down by air defenses. Israel is continuing its attack, striking a heavy water reactor linked to Iran's nuclear program. And the federal government is making arrangements to help Canadians leave the Middle East once they reach countries bordering Israel and Iran. Canada is the latest country to announce plans to evacuate its citizens. Airports are closed across the region. So, Ottawa has stationed consular officials on the other side of certain crossings on the Israeli and Iranian borders to help those fleeing. Canadians in the region are being urged to register with Global Affairs so they can get the latest details. The government says it's looking at further options beyond commercial means, including getting help from Canada's allies.
Days before a major NATO summit, Spain has rejected a proposal for members to increase their defense spending. Alliance countries will be asked to spend 5% of their GDP. But today, Spain said it cannot commit to that number, calling it unreasonable. It is requesting a more flexible formula that either makes the spending goal optional or excludes Spain from its application. Any agreement to raise defense spending would require unanimous approval by the 32 member states. Canada's Prime Minister will be attending the NATO summit. Mark Carney recently pledged the country will reach the current defense spending goal of 2% of GDP. This is for the first time since 1990. Hurricane Erick continues to pound western Mexico, and scientists are warning the first such storm to hit the country this season could bring potentially life-threatening flooding and landslides. The storm made landfall around 5:30 this morning as a Category 3 hurricane. Forecasters at the U.S. National Hurricane Center say Erick will weaken over the mountains of western Mexico, but it is still expected to bring as much as 400 millimeters of rain to parts of Oaxaca state.
Well, it is worth mentioning that the Atlantic hurricane season is now also underway. It began on June 1st. Let's take one more look at Hurricane Erick on the satellite and radar imagery. As Michelle just mentioned, this made landfall this morning as a major Category 3 hurricane. It has now been downgraded to a Category 1, and it will continue to deteriorate over land now into a post-tropical low. Today's high here in Toronto is 24 degrees. Tomorrow, we officially welcome summer. The summer solstice not until the evening hours. The season officially arrives at 10:41 p.m. And then we are heating up in a hurry. We'll talk about highs in the 30s and humidex values in the 40s for part of next week after this break here on CTV News at noon. Stay with us.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400. From your screen to ours. Text 10400.
All right, let's talk about the forecast. It is warm, but there are some clouds out there and some concerns north of us.
Stormy weather, steamy, but it's not. It doesn't feel too hot right now. It's what's coming in the days ahead that could be a concern.
Isn't it interesting that we have a humidex value of about 30 today, and this is our cool day this week. So let that prepare you for what's upcoming. Now is probably a good time to check and make sure your air conditioning is working in your home. You're going to need it as we make our way into the weekend. Today, it's a chance of a passing shower, mostly cloudy and quite windy out there as well. Weather is brought to you by the Pressler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. We, of course, had a few thunderstorms rumble through yesterday. This is what it looked like this morning from the CTV News chopper. And yeah, you can see those raindrops on the camera lens. Might have been a little damp as you were heading out the door early this morning. We're not completely in the clear at this hour. There's still a chance of some wet weather as we make our way through the afternoon, but it shouldn't be heavy, steady rain that we're anticipating the rest of the day. Different story, though, for sections of the Bruce Peninsula and then areas like Parry Sound over toward Huntsville. You remain under a rainfall warning at this time. Here's a look at the current satellite and radar imagery. I mentioned the line of showers extending into the Barrie area from Waterloo region. That is going to drift its way toward us here in the GTAs. We progress through the afternoon. A couple of spotty showers around Niagara, the Kawarthas as well. So that's just the kind of day it's going to be. Pretty cloudy, a little unsettled, and there's just a moist feeling in the air once you take all that humidity that's still kicking around into consideration. Here's about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I think we're likely to get a passing shower earlier than this, but just a heads up that wet weather is still a possibility at that hour. For your Friday, I wouldn't pay too close attention to the timing of any possible showers. We might get a brief round of wet weather or even a thunderstorm, perhaps late day on Friday, but we will also likely enjoy a mix of sun and cloud. Saturday, I know the weekend forecast very important. Here's about 9 a.m. Looks like a stronger chance of some active weather London and across extreme southwest Ontario, but perhaps some late day showers or thunderstorms around the GTA as well. And then Sunday, things are really going to start to heat up. So today's a bit of a break from all that heat and humidity. I know it still feels like 29 at this hour. Starting to cool down in Wyerton, for example, it's 15 degrees now at this time. 25 is our seasonal norm here in Toronto. The hot spot so far in southern Ontario today is St. Catharines, just shy of 25 degrees. Here's your evening at a glance. So we're back into the teens through the evening hours tonight. Again, likely to feel a little refreshing, at least compared to the last couple of days. And then overnight tonight, we are seasonal. 15 for the low. That's where we expect to be this time of year. Your school day forecast for Friday. We should be able to enjoy a mix of sun and cloud, as mentioned, but shorts and t-shirt weather once again. And that is an understatement as we make our way into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, even part of Wednesday, although we're starting to see signs of a little bit of relief as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. 7-day forecast looks like this, likely to be mostly cloudy for your Saturday, even if it stays dry here in the Toronto area. And then there's the heat starting to build for Sunday, 32 degrees, then 34 degrees on Monday, humidex 43, 33 on Tuesday. So it looks like we're easily going to reach heat wave criteria, 3 consecutive days of 32 degrees or higher. A more comfortable 27 is what we are anticipating by about Wednesday. That's your look at the forecast for now. Michelle, I'll send it over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, a new exhibit is coming to Yorkdale Mall exploring the visual language of sport, identity, and community. It's titled Love, Art, and Basketball. And this exhibit includes art, panel talks, and creative workshops as well. Jessica Smith is live there with more on the event. Jess.
Michelle, the space is so incredibly cool, and it's located inside of Yorkdale Mall. I'm joined by some of the organizers, some of the artists. It's almost too exciting to kind of get it all into 3 minutes, but we're going to do our best. I'm going to start with you, Andrew. Talk to me about what Love, Art, and Basketball is, because we're seeing, mixed media here. There's so many cool things to see. What are we standing in?
You're looking at a month-long exhibition here. It's curated by artists for artists. It's a diverse palette of photographers, painters, and installation artists.
And Jade, I want to get you in here. I want to talk about the amount of artists, because there was about 17. Why include so many people?
Because that's how talented Toronto is. We have so much to choose from, and we're so excited to have this exhibit to showcase that talent, all through the love and passion that we have for basketball.
So we all know ball is life in the city. We've got the NBA, the WNBA coming. I want to talk to you, Mallory. I've seen your work before. It is breathtaking. How cool is it to be a part of this exhibit?
I'm really excited. I think that this really shows to the diversity of not only the city, but of art through basketball.
And I know we talked a little bit before about your work in particular, about bringing that femininity into it. Why is it important?
I think I didn't see myself a lot in art and in sport, to be honest, when I was younger. And so I wanted to continually approach basketball in a way that felt representative of not only me, but other people around me. And so I through a female lens, but also kind of hitting that storytelling and diverse nature of the sport.
And I think that's so important when it comes to explaining the different sides and facets of basketball. Andrew, I want to pull you back in here. We have so many different types of mixed media, and there are panels as well. Why did you guys want to kind of have everything included? Because it's cool to come and see the things, but the conversations are really what matters.
The sport of basketball has so many touch points and an impact, I think, through the population. We're such a diverse population here in the city of Toronto, and you could see the depth of the work through the different types of mediums.
So when does it open, and who is this for?
Tonight's actually our opening night, so you could RSVP. More information on the website, loveartbasketball.com. It's for everybody, month-long, free.
Free is my favorite price. Now, Jade, I want to bring you back in here. This has probably been a long time in the making. How cool is it to see this all come to fruition and have it opening this evening and bringing everybody from across the GTA, across the country? I mean, if you're visiting the city, you might as well pop in. How cool is it to have this beginning?
I'm buzzing, because if anyone out there knows, what goes into just planning any type of event, and this is through so many partners and, again, local artists, everyone's just super excited to share the work and show off the talent.
So if people want to find out more information, they want to come visit, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can go to loveartandbasketball.com. Also, you can check out Art Starts TO, Crybaby Gallery, Bench Mob as well, any of their Instagram pages as well to get more information.
And it's free, which is our favorite price. It's accessible, and that is so important. I want to thank you all so much. Love Art and Basketball opens this evening, runs for a month until July 23rd, so you can come and check it out. I'll send things back into the studio.
All right, will do. Thank you, Jess. Thank you. Coming up, a new drug has just been approved that promises to reduce the risk of breast cancer returning for survivors. Details after the break.
The fear of breast cancer returning is very real among cancer survivors.
But as CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan tells us, a new drug has just been approved that promises to reduce the risk.
Nicole Macronia Powell was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer 2 days before she was supposed to go on vacation in Mexico in 2023. She canceled her plans and began a grueling series of treatments.
So I did 8 rounds of chemotherapy, I did 4 rounds of Perjeta, and once I started my second round of chemotherapy, I started what would become 18 rounds of Herceptin. Shortly after finishing chemotherapy, I had surgery to remove 13 lymph nodes on my left side.
Her cancer is gone now, but the fear of cancer returning is always on her mind.
You always think about it. You hear about the rates of reoccurrence, and it's often metastasized at that point.
That's why the approval of ribociclib, also known as Kisqali, is so important.
When added to standard hormone therapy, Kisqali has been shown to significantly lower the chance of breast cancer recurrence in a broad population of patients with hormone receptor positive, HER2 negative, early stage breast cancer.
And Dr. Kaja Jerzak says that's a significant number of early stage breast cancer patients.
For those diagnosed with this type of disease, up to 1 in 3 women may experience a recurrence within 20 years of initial treatment. And unfortunately, often when the cancer comes back, it returns as metastatic disease, which is usually incurable. So it's really important to try to optimize therapies when we're at that curative state.
Provincial coverage for Kisqali is still being worked out, but Dr. Jerzak says a key benefit is that it's effective in a broad range of patients. Nicole finally did manage to vacation in Puerto Vallarta, and she is grateful to know there's now one more option available for patients like her to keep cancer at bay. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
As the weather heats up, more people are outdoors to soak up the sun or heading to the cottage, but there's a hidden risk in the tall grass: ticks.
CTV's Luke Simard has more on the rise in tick cases in some parts of the province and what you can do to stay safe while still enjoying the outdoors.
So provincially, in 2023, they had 1,800 cases of Lyme disease, just over that figure, and that's gone up about 6-fold over a decade.
Ticks, small bugs that can pack a severe punch if latched onto your skin over a long period of time.
Lyme disease is a bacterial infection transmitted by a tick, black-legged tick to be precise.
Becoming more common over the last 2 to 3 decades, with 47 cases in Simcoe Muskoka in 2024. Symptoms include a rash, fever, muscle aches, and pains, and become more severe if not monitored or treated.
If it remains longer, 30 days or more, you can end up with paralysis of the lower portion of your face, something we call a Bell's palsy that can be on one side or both sides.
If a tick is latched on, get tweezers and pinch it off without killing the bug. If a tick is latched on for more than 24 hours, seek medical attention. While cases in people increase, veterinarians are also seeing an increase in Lyme disease in dogs.
The percent of tick-transmitted disease that we're seeing this year has increased probably about 400% over what we saw in previous years.
Due to a warming climate, ticks are becoming more common and larger. Unlike humans who can show signs of symptoms, they are more difficult to see on dogs.
The symptoms could vary anywhere from your pet just not feeling well. We might notice a fever, we might notice joint swelling or lameness.
Carefully monitor your pet if walking in long grass and heavy brush.
The most common place that you're going to find ticks are around the face, neck, feet area. If you know that your pet has had a tick bite, a tick exposure, remove the tick right away, and then about 6 to 8 weeks later, bring your pet in for blood testing.
Officials are saying to be proactive when it comes to ticks by covering your arms and legs. If you do find a tick, whether on a person or on a pet, you are being asked to take a picture of it so it can be identified in your region. For details on how to do that, you can head on over to our website. Luke Simard, CTV News, Barrie.
A W5 investigation is shedding light on how some employees of ServiceOntario, the agency that registers cars in this province, are helping thieves steal them.
CTV's John Woodward reveals how criminals or alleged criminals working in provincial licensing systems might be a problem right across Canada.
This is surveillance video of a driveway east of Toronto in 2021. It's almost 2 a.m. You can see the 5 men climb the stairs of the home. They demand a resident's car keys and fire a gun into the ground. They made off with a $400,000 Bentley in the driveway. The hunt for the thieves led investigators to a company here in Sudbury, Ontario. That business was registering cars, even though an OPP report filed in court said officers concluded this business does not exist. Some of those cars discovered on this lot just north of Toronto, belonging to another company called Prexco. Visitors weren't exactly welcome, but we went there anyway, looking for Prexco's director, Erick Johnson.
We're looking for Erick Johnson?
We got someone on the phone, but he didn't have much to say.
Okay, listen, man, I don't have time for this.
After the police visited the same property in 2022, recording this video, they accused Johnson of being the mastermind of a scheme to disguise stolen cars from Land Rovers to Porsches, changing their unique vehicle identification numbers so he could sell them. And he had help. Police believed he was working with a clerk at this Brampton ServiceOntario, someone he called My Girl in wiretaps, who bragged she could stop toll highway bills from ever making it to the driver.
Let's say, for example, you're on 407, you don't pay the bills, and it'll never come back to you.
The clerk, a woman named Tanisha Baird. Among the vehicles she registered with Johnson was one for her to drive, an Audi Q3 SUV that was worth about $46,000 new. She paid just $162 in fees. It was the vehicle she was driving when she was arrested. She and Johnson convicted in March, with a judge describing her as a car thief too. We caught up with Johnson himself outside the Brampton courthouse.
Mr. Johnson, John Woodward from CTV. We can stay back. That's fine. We just wanted to see if Mr. Johnson had anything to say for himself. We just wanted to see if he had anything to say, Mr. Johnson, about what's happening. Are you a car thief, sir?
No, really? Your mama is.
Investigators are exploring whether someone on the inside, like Baird, arranged paperwork for any possibly stolen vehicles at a Scarborough dealership, whose salespeople are also facing charges. Cases like this, where a criminal uses someone on the inside of a government agency, could be happening a lot more than we know, said Mike Fair, who used to work for the Edmonton Police's Alert Car Theft Unit.
How widespread is something like that across the country?
I would say that it's all across the country.
What tells you that?
We have stolen vehicles that travel across the country continually. It's mobile.
Ontario's Minister of Transportation says his province has introduced changes that he hopes will make it harder for anyone to illegally re-VIN a car.
For us, it's about making sure that we punish those who do take part in this, create deterrences through legislation.
Johnson and Baird are awaiting sentencing, the judge saying their crimes provide the financial incentive for the violence in thefts like this.
And now CTV's John Woodward. Still to come, a warning for travelers who hang on to foreign currency. They could become outdated and lose their value. We have details after the break.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
When you travel, you may come home with currency from countries you visited, and oftentimes it can end up tucked in a dresser drawer and forgotten about.
But you need to be careful, because if you hang on to some of that foreign currency too long, it could become outdated and lose its value. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
They're penalizing me for their error, and I think that's very unfair.
Jose Romano of Scarborough has traveled to Mexico many times over the years. She's been saving her leftover Mexican pesos and in March decided to cash it in for Canadian funds. She gave her bank 21,000 Mexican pesos and received just over $1,400 Canadian.
I accepted it, and he gave me the cash, and then I went home, and I completely forgot all about it.
The Mexican peso was revalued by the Bank of Mexico in 1993, and older bills were withdrawn from circulation. Romano says while Scotiabank accepted her Mexican currency, they later contacted her to say the bills were too old and of no value.
They said the pesos are old. I had no idea if the pesos were old. How would I know? They're the bank.
Romano says the bank offered to return the Mexican pesos to her, but she said weeks had passed and she had already spent the money. But she was shocked when the bank debited her account the $1,400.
Without my knowledge or consent, they had taken the money out of my account, the full amount.
When CTV News reached out to Scotiabank, a spokesperson said if foreign banknotes are returned for some reason, for example, they're no longer in circulation, their account will be debited the Canadian dollar value of the returned foreign banknotes. Romano feels the bank should not have exchanged the Mexican currency if it had no value.
If they hadn't given it to me, I wouldn't have spent it.
After CTV News reached out to Scotiabank on Romano's behalf, she was told she would get a full refund of the $1,400, which was a major relief for her.
I want to thank you so much. I have no words to express my gratitude. I am very, very grateful. Thank you, Mr. Foran. I'm so glad.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
Canada's Competition Bureau is recommending some major changes to this country's airline industry. A new report calls Canada's aviation sector highly concentrated and says 100% foreign ownership of domestic-only airlines should be allowed. The watchdog suggests creating a new class of airline that operates only in Canada but could have owners from elsewhere, which would promote competition and bring global expertise and cash. The Bureau says low competition remains a big hurdle to lower prices and better service. The current foreign ownership cap is 49%.
Rental prices are declining across the country, but many still aren't ready to trade their lease for a mortgage agreement. Nearly 40% of renters spend between 31 to 50% of their income on monthly rent costs, according to a new report from Royal LePage and Burson. Over the past 5 years, rent prices in Canada have increased, outpacing wage growth and making it harder to save for a down payment. The report says more than half of renters plan to buy a property in the future, but just 16% might do so within the next 2 years, and nearly 1/3 of renters don't plan to purchase a home at all. Meanwhile, up to 4.8 million new homes will need to be built over the next decade to restore affordability levels last seen in 2019. That's based on projected demand. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation estimates between 430,000 and 480,000 new housing units are needed per year by 2035. That would be about double the current pace of home construction in Canada. The latest report from the National Housing Agency says Ontario and Nova Scotia have the most significant housing supply gaps.
Ontario's Privacy Commissioner has weighed in on an investigation into vending machines at the University of Waterloo that were secretly using face detection technology. CTV's Hannah Schmidt has the details.
It looked like a typical vending machine, but hidden inside was technology tracking more than just your snack choice.
They were not lawfully authorized to go beyond that and collect all of this additional information, which was not necessary for the purpose of buying a can of Coke or a bag of chips.
The discovery made by students exposed complex information gathering. An investigation by Ontario's Privacy Commissioner found the machines on the University of Waterloo's campus were collecting facial data, inferring gender, age, and even tracking emotions and attention span.
This collection of additional information was concerning, and we found was contrary to the Provincial Public Sector Privacy Act.
According to the IPC report, it was determined the university was not aware the machines had facial detection technology that was collecting information. The machines were quickly pulled. Had it happened now, the outcome could be very different.
Just 2 weeks away, there are provisions that will come into force that will allow my office to conduct investigations with quite extensive investigative powers and the power to issue binding orders.
The new changes, part of Ontario's updated Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, mark a major shift. Privacy impact assessments and breach notifications will be mandatory, and the ability to issue binding orders will come into force on July 1st.
Had the institution got sort of onto the fact that these machines were smart and that there was something behind them, they would have conducted a privacy impact assessment, which they did not do. But had they done that, then they would have seen that there were quite significant risks.
So what about companies that make these machines? Right now, that's federal jurisdiction. But the commissioner says change is coming there too.
We can collaborate in a joint investigation and come up with consistent findings and work together rather than having to undergo multiple disparate investigations.
The commissioner giving credit to the students who brought their concerns forward to her office, saying it's due diligence like theirs that can help hold parties accountable and make a change.
The students should be very proud that they brought this issue to our attention, and thanks to them, the machines were removed right away, and this practice has been stopped.
Hannah Schmidt, CTV News.
In sports, the Blue Jays were looking for a second straight win when they took on the Arizona Diamondbacks last night.
Up and in. Brissett drives the ball out to left center field, and it's gone.
The Jays opened the scoring with a homer in the first inning. They built on their lead and went on to win the game 8-1. The teams will wrap up their series this afternoon. First pitch is just after 3.
Hamilton Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is just one win away from an NBA championship with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Indiana, we've talked about this. You were one of the fastest teams, but you got to slow down. Gilgeous-Alexander didn't slow down.
OKC has a 3-2 series lead over the Indiana Pacers heading into Game 6 of the NBA Finals tonight. The Pacers have home court advantage tonight. Now, there's no word yet on whether Tyrese Halliburton will be in the Pacers lineup. He's dealing with a strained right calf. Tip-off tonight is just after 8:30.
The controlling stake of the Los Angeles Lakers has been sold with a record-setting price tag. The stake valued at $10 billion U.S., the richest franchise sale in professional sports history. This majority stake, previously held by the Buss family, now belongs to billionaire Mark Walter, owner of the L.A. Dodgers and the PWHL.
The Stanley Cup has suffered some minor damage as a result of the Panthers' championship celebration. The bowl of the trophy seen here is cracked, with the bottom dented. A spokesperson for the Hockey Hall of Fame says the keepers of the cup are planning to have the trophy repaired by the celebration parade on Sunday.
When the Toronto Indy takes place next month, Formula 4 racers for young drivers will feature an Ajax teenager who is making a name for himself on the track.
CTV's Andrea Case got into the passenger seat and has the story.
Before Mayor Dionarine can take me for a spin around the track at Mosport, I need a little help not only with my helmet, and getting into the race car is a delicate balancing act for the uninitiated.
And then slide into it like a bathtub. Put your feet first. I just turned 16.
Okay, so do you have a license?
No, not yet.
What do you mean you don't have a license?
I haven't had time to get a license yet, so my dad won't even let me back the car in the driveway.
But on the track, he puts his foot down, and all I can do is hang on. Wade Hashey of Radical Canada says this British-made car is made for the track.
The fact that they're purebred race cars. They're built from the factory to be raced. They come from the factory race ready. For example, anti-lock brakes, traction control, power steering, they're all manual.
Dionarine started racing in the F4 series last year. Formula 4 racing is an entry-level open-wheel category. On it, from Europe to North America, he's been racking up the wins.
You felt it, right? Need for Speed is what I love, and since I was a kid, I've liked cars and trucks, and I got into go-karting at a young age. I actually started a little bit late, so I got in at 10 years old, but I currently driver coach kids that start at 3 years old.
3 years old?
3 years old, and they're going like 40 kilometers an hour.
It is an expensive endeavor. At this level, it can cost over $1 million a year. It couldn't be done without sponsors, and Road to Racing, a Canadian motorsport foundation, is committed to eliminating financial barriers for emerging race car drivers. The Ajax native says 90% of preparation is done off the track, including simulation driving. It takes a lot of stamina to race in the heat.
It's a lot of gym training, right? We have to be fit, but we also have to last an hour being that fit. So we work on muscle density, not muscle volume, right? So to be in a car, you have to be fit, but you have to last that hour doing the same time consistently within that 10th, right? So it's constantly in the gym.
And sometimes the heat gets to the reporter, too. The Honda Dealers Toronto Indy Radical Series takes place on July 19th, and that's where you can catch Mayor driving. And maybe one day he will be an F1 Formula Racer driver. Andrea, in case of the need for speed, CTV News.
You never know, Andrew.
Like fun.
Having a great time on the track. That looked like a lot of fun for sure. I don't know, not the most ideal day on the track today. We've got the potential for some weather.
And it is still very humid, so you have to take care out there. Even though this isn't expected to be one of our hottest days this week, you still want to stay hydrated, have a cool place to go. Let's take one more look at the satellite and radar. We have a few showers impacting areas like Milton over toward Acton and extending still north toward the Lake Simcoe area. Let's see if we can advance this for you and give you an idea of what's next. There it is. Overnight tonight, 15 for the low. That is seasonal. Temperature tomorrow is expected to be around 25 degrees, feeling like 30. Could be mostly cloudy at times, and we are going to watch for a quick passing shower. Headed to the cottage this weekend. Here's a look at what you can expect. It is going to be unsettled at times. It's also going to be very hot, especially Sunday into Monday and Tuesday. We can't talk about it enough. Heat wave criteria, very muggy, very uncomfortable. We'll keep an eye on this developing weather story for you. For now, Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
All right, good to know. Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a wonderful afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.